morning, children. I am here to tell you about the Garbage Pail Kids show. It is disgusting, obnoxious, and worst of all, gross. I think it's terrible that they would put something like this on TV. Don't you? Good. I'm glad you agree. Now, change the channel.
Oh, God. No. I was so not looking forward to this episode. Ew! What in the world? Why? Just... okay. That's just gross. I can't even believe this was a thing. But let me take my personal feelings out of this so we can get to the episode. As you poppers know, we recently covered Xavier Roberts and the Cabbage Kids. And due to the massive popularity of that brand, it was inevitable that someone would troll him. So today, let's go back in time to see how Topps and Art Spiegelman changed how we play. Surprisingly, Garbage Pail Kids were not created by a group of frat boys after a night of beer pong. In fact, they are the brainchild of a Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoonist named Art Spiegelman. And as a consultant for toy giant Topps, he invented Garbage Pail Kids after his other creations became a massive success. The first of those being Garbage Candy, basically candy inside miniature trash cans, and Wacky Packages, another whimsical line that featured many versions of real products, and with such names like Cap'n Crud, Cheepios, Moron Salts, Snoot Loops, Soreburst, Band Ache, and Rats. It makes sense that kids love them. I'm sorry, I'm trying really hard to keep it together here. Anyway, I guess the old adage is true. Every artist has a muse. And apparently, Art Spiegelman is no different. But before we go any further, let's go back in time. According to multiple sources, Spiegelman was born in Stockholm, Sweden on February 15, 1948 to Vladek and Anja Spiegelman. And his full given name is actually Itzhak Avraham Ben ZEEV Spiegelman. Please forgive me if I butchered any of the pronunciations here. Though there is a great deal to say about his life, I will defer it for a retrospective on his career, because with a rich history like Art Spiegelman's, it would be wrong to just gloss over what his family endured as Polish Jews. At any rate, Spiegelman's family immigrated to America in 1951, so that would make him roughly like 3 years old at the time. And once in the US, immigration registered him as Arthur, which of course he later changed to Art. So once all the paperwork was complete, the family settled down in Norristown, Pennsylvania, before eventually moving to Rego Park, Queens, New York City in 1957. During 1960, Spiegelman began drawing cartoons, and of course, he did what most kids do. He imitated the style of his favorite comics, like Mad, for example. But it didn't take long before he started contributing to magazines such as Smudge and Skip Williamson's Squire. So while still attending Russell Sage Junior High School, honor student Spiegelman produced his own fanzine called Blaze. Wow. That's actually super impressive for a child to be that dedicated. I mean, some of you are hiding your talent right now. Anyway, Spiegelman was so driven, he eventually started earning real money by the time he reached high school. Because when not working on his many ideas, he sold his art to the Long Island Press and other outlets. And eventually, his talent caught the eye of United Features Syndicate, who actually offered him the chance to produce a syndicated comic strip. But surprisingly, Spiegelman turned down the opportunity. But not because he didn't want to work for them, but rather because of his belief that art was an expression. So instead of being commercialized so young, he focused on his studies at the High School of Art and Design in Manhattan. During this time, he met one Woody Gelman, art director of Topps Chewing Gum Company, and seeing the potential of the young man, Gelman encouraged him to apply to Topps after he graduated high school. But after graduating in 1965, Spiegelman's parents advised him to choose something financially stable. And like most parents, they wanted him to become a dentist or something along those lines. But instead of curbing his artistic talents, Spiegelman enrolled at Harper College and majored in art and philosophy. And while there, a familiar company popped into his life again, because it was at this time Spiegelman became a freelancer at Topps, a partnership that would last for many, many years. So while there, he did many short experimental and often autobiographical works. Spiegelman also focused on Mouse, a book about his relationship with his father, who happens to be a Holocaust survivor. And for his efforts, he won a special Pulitzer Prize in 1992. Simply awesome. As for the Garbage Pail Kids, the entire concept began as unreleased wacky package sticker designs. But since they were unused in their 1985 series, Topps decided to create a spin-off. Thus, Spiegelman and fellow cartoonist Mark Newgarden became the art directors and editors of the project. And after bringing on Len Brown as manager, the first set of cards were drawn exclusively by John Pound, who did the front of the cards, and Tom Bunk, who did the back of the cards. The Garbage Pail Kids trademark was filed in 1984 by Topps Chewing Gum, Inc. So in 1985, the first issue of cards were released, and with gross characters like Nasty Nick, Junk Food John, Up Chuck, Dead Ted, Fryin' Brian, Atom Bomb, Boozin' Bruce, Virus Iris, and Rundown Rhonda, the public wanted more. And who could pass up a deal like 5 cards and a stick of gum for 25 cents? But, according to many accounts, you would need a dentist after chewing said gum. Hey, who cares as long as you're having fun? And for all you numbers people, 25 cents in 1985 would be 64 cents today. So after the success of the initial run, more artists and writers were brought in, including notables like Jay Lynch and James Warhola. Interesting tidbit for you poppers, because according to many articles, there was a time when Topps executive Arthur Shorin actually considered licensing the Cabbage Patch Kids. But after thinking it over, he decided to parody them instead. And I'm sure you all remember how paranoid Xavier Roberts was about his dolls being copied. If you don't, please watch our Cabbage Patch Kids video for context. And you might also want to check out the Vice episode titled The Secret History of the Cabbage Patch Kids, because it really does a great job of explaining Martha Nelson Thomas and Xavier Roberts' story.
So I'm sure he's in a villa somewhere, kicked back, spending the money he made on Martha Nelson Thomas.
So please check the link below. Anyway, as expected, many adults hated the Garbage Pail Kids. And it was so bad, a lot of schools eventually banned them. And some Karens of the 80s even called them lewd and a major distraction in the classroom. One specific group called Parents Against Sadistic Toys were so triggered, they convinced Toys R Us chains in Oregon and Washington to remove the brand from shelves.
What is this?
Seriously, with all the other problems going on in the 80s, I don't care if they're smoking crack down the street, you will not have fun on my watch. But as the outrage against the Garbage Pail Kids grew, so did the popularity. I mean, even the news stations covered the so-called controversy. Just look at this.
If you have them, fine, keep them home. Monday mornings, I don't want to see them in school.
You can't even play with them at recess time. What are you supposed to do, just sit there? I mean, really?
And this.
They don't need to have a chewing gum company or a bubble gum company sending them cards that show mutilation, cannibalism, torture, one child being burned alive on a bubblegum card, and these have started now to impress the youngsters.
I don't think they're any worse than cartoons on television and so forth, like Masters of the Universe. Some of those are pretty gross, and as long as they don't scare my kids, they don't bother me.
Apparently, people of the 80s weren't any different than people of today, because all this outrage had the opposite effect on the trend. So every time they gave the Garbage Pail Kids negative press, sales just kept going up. which proves the old saying that there's no such thing as bad publicity. And with an estimated 800 million cards sold, it makes sense that by 1987, the revenue for the brand was rumored to be at 64 million. That would be $154,122,253.52 today. But let's not forget about the 1987 Garbage Pail Kids movie that no one asked for. Because, as we all know, Hollywood loves to greenlight anything to cash in on a fad.
Why should we do something nice? Let's quit now, that's my advice.
Even when they have no idea how to write a decent script for it. So after spending $1 million to make the film, the box office was a disappointing $1,600,000. And if that wasn't bad enough, it was panned by audiences and critics alike.
It stinks.
That's why it has a 2.6 on IMDb, a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, and 1% on Metacritic. Yikes. I mean, but it kind of makes sense once you see the clips from the movie. I mean, like, what is this supposed to be? Thanks, Hollywood. Anyway, aside from the failed movie, the Garbage Pail Kids were doing pretty good. So they rolled out t-shirts, cereal, board games, cereal bars, mini figurines, magnets, action figures, buttons, candy, lunch boxes, and a whole lot more. But the detractors were still circling like sharks.
It's perfect.
Because the animated series that was meant to air on CBS in 1987 got canned due to massive complaints. But even though it wasn't shown here in the US, the 13 episodes were released in various European territories. And years later, 2006 to be exact, Paramount released it on DVD. But even as things were coming up roses, one man was not happy about the Garbage Pail Kids, and that was one Xavier Roberts, the creator of the Cabbage Patch Kids. In fact, he was so displeased, he sued Topps for copyright and trademark infringement in 1987. So the non-jury trial began the same year in U.S. District Court. And according to documents, original Appalachian Artworks claimed that Topps had the opportunity to produce the Cabbage Patch Kids in 1983. But after the deal went nowhere, they instead copied his cherub-faced dolls. So aside from wanting production stopped, Xavier also wanted all Garbage Pail Kids items recalled. And as for damages, some sources say he wanted $30 million. However, there are other sources that claim he asked for 3 times the profit Topps made from the brand. Either way, it seems a bit heavy-handed to me, but what do I know? Thankfully, the judgment didn't destroy the Garbage Pail Kids brand, because despite the court siding with Xavier Roberts and original Appalachian Artworks, things remained pretty fair. And though not many details are known about the settlement, Topps did pay Xavier Roberts and his company an undisclosed sum. Furthermore, they were given a deadline to sell all remaining Garbage Pail Kids merch before implementing new design changes. Basically, Topps had to alter their artwork to no longer resemble the Cabbage Patch Kids. So, with such a verdict, it's no surprise that the AP quotes Xavier Roberts as saying,
I could scream. I'm so excited.
Alright, you won the case, just calm down. Of course, Topps did change the Garbage Pail Kids' character designs and logo. But these changes were not embraced by the consumer. And before long, sales began to die down. So, with the fad coming to an end, they decided it was time to stop production after Original Series 15. And this was done right in the middle of creating Original Series 16. Hey, but don't worry, Poppers, this story doesn't end on a down note. Because not only is Spiegelman still active, he's an advocate who also mentors young artists. And when he's not doing that, he's an editor and teacher at the School of Visual Arts in New York. And seriously, I would highly recommend that you check out his books because you'll want to keep adding to your collection. Trust me. And as for Spiegelman's brainchild, Topps licensed Garbage Pail Kids to GPK Nation in 2020, and when the company created a limited edition coin collection, they were given the 2020 Licensee of the Year award. Currently, there are also many new companies that have signed on to make Garbage Pail Kids merch. So don't be surprised when you see items like skateboards, WWE shirts, board games, Rubik's Cubes, Funko Pops, jackets, puzzles, and tons more coming to a store near you. And if none of those things pique your interest, you can always jump into the comics, or you could choose to buy the books written by R.L. Stine. Oh, and there's also a Garbage Pail Kids game in the App Store, and since it's rated 4.6 out of 5, it must be really good. So no matter how you get into the Garbage Pail Kids fandom, you just need to know that it's not going anywhere anytime soon, because after celebrating their 35th anniversary in April of 2020, there was a huge announcement. Because according to a May 26, 2021 article by The Hollywood Reporter, HBO is developing a Garbage Pail Kids animated series for HBO Max. Obviously, Topps is working closely with Tornanti and Danny McBride's Roughhouse Pictures to bring the project to life. So I guess the Garbage Pail Kids will take the world by storm again. So while we're waiting for the series, you can find the cards and any merch you want on sites like gpk.com, their official site, Amazon, Topps.com, Chalkline, Walmart, and many more. Personally, despite finding them kind of gross initially, I'm kind of rooting for the Garbage Pail Kids because for every good-looking character, we need a drippy Dan for balance. Oh God. And speaking of good looking, that brings us to the next episode because we're gonna examine a prince that can literally turn himself into the ultimate warrior. That's right, we are jumping into the world of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Well, thanks a million for watching, Poppers. See you later.